It's a clear Saturday afternoon in Australia. The Sydney skyline sits quietly across the water, painting a picture of an iconic and peaceful weekend. Moving into the eastern suburbs, we arrive at the Westfield Bondi Junction shopping center. Thousands of local families and residents were spending their afternoon here, running errands, eating, and shopping. Inside, as crowds moved through the brightly lit retail corridors, there was no indication that anything was out of the ordinary. The thousands of people moving between stores were entirely unaware of the threat approaching the complex. This mundane, everyday environment is exactly what makes a mass security event so difficult to anticipate. When a space is designed purely for leisure and open commerce, an abrupt shift to violence catches everyone completely off guard. To understand how the tragedy unfolded, we have to look at the investigation. This timeline is a digital reconstruction mapped by police, tracking a staggering sequence of events lasting exactly 18 minutes. Starting at minute 0, investigators used the building's CCTV network to pinpoint the exact moment the attacker walked through the doors. Authorities would later identify the man and release verified details regarding his background. They explicitly noted a history of mental health challenges, while continuing to investigate his specific movements leading up to that afternoon. Stepping through those doors set off a cascading chain of events. Over the next 18 minutes, what started as a single data point on a security camera evolved into a sprawling emergency that authorities would have to meticulously dissect second by second. The atmosphere inside Westfield broke instantly. Shoppers who were casually browsing storefronts moments earlier were suddenly running for their lives as the initial attacks occurred, turning the crowded walkways into a site of mass panic. This diagram represents the multi-level layout of the shopping center. You can see red points across the map rapidly populating as a massive influx of distress calls hit police dispatch centers, revealing the terrifying speed of the threat. Thousands of people bottlenecked at exits as they tried to evacuate. On-site security personnel, equipped for standard retail management rather than an active, lethal threat, struggled to contain the rapidly moving attacker. A multi-story commercial space like this is built to keep shoppers inside and browsing. In an active threat, those same intersecting escalators, dead-end corridors, and sprawling floor plans multiply the confusion, turning the architecture itself into a severe logistical hazard. Yet, amidst the terror, the attacker's momentum was repeatedly disrupted. Investigators identified spontaneous acts of civilian resistance that served as critical friction points throughout the complex. Shop workers actively pulled vulnerable customers inside their stores, slamming down locked security shutters. Elsewhere, off-duty medical staff and bystanders rushed toward the injured, attempting emergency triage before the area was even secured. One of the most documented moments of resistance occurred on an escalator. Members of the public armed themselves with heavy metal stanchions, physically blocking the attacker's path and preventing him from advancing to the floor above. These actions bought the most valuable resource in any crisis response: time. By forcing the attacker to alter his path and slow his progression, ordinary people directly enabled the impending police intervention. As the 18-minute mark approached, Inspector Amy Scott arrived on the scene. She entered the complex and moved toward the danger entirely by herself. Navigating through crowds of fleeing shoppers, she didn't have time to wait for a heavily armed tactical unit. Instead, she relied on the frantic directions of bystanders, pointing her toward the upper levels to locate the attacker. When she cornered him, the attacker turned and advanced toward her with his weapon. Inspector Scott made a split-second, calculated decision to discharge her firearm, bringing the man to the ground and halting the violence. A sprawling, escalating crisis that claimed multiple lives over 18 agonizing minutes was instantly stopped by the decisive training and action of a single first responder. With the immediate threat neutralized, the focus shifted. The bustling commercial hub was completely locked down, transitioning into a silent, sprawling crime scene. Outside, as dusk settled, a massive mobilization of emergency services gathered on the surrounding streets. The sheer volume of flash and lights and response vehicles underscored the severe reality of the afternoon. NSW police immediately launched an exhaustive investigation. Detectives began the arduous task of interviewing hundreds of traumatized witnesses and reviewing thousands of hours of internal CCTV footage to map every single footstep taken inside the building. human memory fragments during extreme trauma. To establish the objective truth of such a chaotic event, investigators must piece together these digital artifacts, synthesizing concrete evidence over eyewitness accounts to fully understand how the security failure occurred. The attack prompted extensive coronial inquiries and immediate reviews of security protocols across retail sectors. The findings are intended to adapt how public spaces manage risk and protect crowds in the future. In the days that followed, the community gathered outside the junction. Thousands of bouquets accumulated on the sidewalks, a physical manifestation of the city's collective grief. Government leaders and dignitaries arrived at the site, walking alongside the public to pay their respects to the victims whose lives were cut short. That solidarity extended beyond Sydney. Landmarks across Australia, including the Opera House, were illuminated in memorial colors, honoring those lost and standing with survivors. Those 18 minutes of violence inflicted a permanent loss on families and the nation. Yet, as time moves forward, the enduring memory of Bondi Junction remains tied to the extraordinary resilience of ordinary people and the calculated courage of the first responders who stepped into the chaos.